I have a lot of respect for chefs, for cooks, the sacrifices they make. But to see all of us, myself included, running around. But I didn't have a family at the time. I didn't have a relationship. I was single. It was the perfect time. But I didn't know if I wanted to waste my leader's time.
Can you really complain about where you put yourself through?
Yeah.
And yeah.
You're going to work every major weekend and holiday. If you would like to have a family, I'm not saying it's not possible. It is possible, but you do have to understand that you're going to probably miss out on a lot of life events. Whatever you want to do in this life, you make sure you make it happen.
The last person I wanted to disappoint wasn't the chefs. It wasn't the leads. It wasn't the other kitchen members. It was you. Every dish tells a story, and with Rough Chop, that story begins with passion, precision, and purpose. We bring the soul of your vision into the world of fine dining, creating an unforgettable experience for those who are wanting more than just a meal. Whether it's a private dinner or an elegant catered event, this is where every plate becomes a moment. Elevate your next gathering with us and book now at roughchopllc.com. Paul.
Yes, chef.
I'm gonna leave that in, okay?
Yeah, leave it in, because before it was always ish, not, flip now, so that thing is awesome.
So, Paul, we've been trying to schedule this meeting for such a long time, and you have been extremely busy, bro.
Yeah, I have. I'm gonna click on you today, bro.
But I'm extremely excited to have you on because you have made a huge impact in my career. From the old times where we worked in the past and then up until it's crazy how we've continued to keep our friendship for such a long time. And whereas if you were at a different restaurant and like that, sometimes you build a camaraderie at a restaurant, and then once they're gone, like you just cease to even say hello or anything like that. And so to me, I feel privileged to be able to continue this friendship with you, and I really appreciate you you taking this time to sit down with me, to speak with me about your career and your insights for the past 10 plus years you've been in the industry. But yeah, man, well, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. Really, when I saw you having a podcast, like, oh, dude, you're doing big things now. Dude, he left his corporate position, saw his own catering thing. Now he's breaking into social media and whatnot. Dude, it's freaking rad. I mean, because we've had conversations regarding like trying to start something, whether it's podcast or YouTube channel, but it was not in this spectrum of food and beverage or culinary for that matter.
Yeah, no, it again, like those are like the ideas that were just floating around during that time, and then never really came to fruition because once you get home, you don't want to do anything. You're tired. You just want to relax, play some I don't know.
Was that was a PS3 or was it PS4 at the time?
PS4. What was that game that we played all the time?
Oh no, Seven Nights.
Nights? Rebooting, right?
Yeah, because from here soon again. Yeah, we're gonna do it.
So extremely excited about Seven Nights, and we'll see what happens. But anyways,
but thank you,
Paul, again, thank you so much for joining me. So for the viewers who don't know who you are, can you give us a little bit of your background, who you are, what you're about, and so forth? Real quick, if you're enjoying this conversation and you want more behind the scenes stories of the hospitality industry, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It's free, it'll help us grow, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming up next. Now back to the conversation.
My name is Paul. Of course, you know that I already introduced me, but anyways, as far as my background, I started in the industry in 2007. Actually, I was born and raised in San Diego. attended culinary school at the Art Institute of San Diego at the time. Art Institute does not exist anymore. While there, it was an associate's program for culinary arts, and then I wanted to expand my knowledge, and I stayed for the bachelor's program. Earned a it's just mostly front of house management and whatnot. So I got a bachelor's in restaurant. They called it culinary management. So an associate's in culinary arts, bachelor's in culinary management, and I had dreams and of course aspirations to be a chef. But I'll be honest, when I left culinary school, I kind of realized like, wow, it's I understand it's passion. I understand it requires a lot of money to start a restaurant. And after learning like how to pretty much the ins and outs of it, I said, "Yeah, I'm not gonna open my own place. I don't wanna open my own restaurant. It's not gonna I don't want to." Me personally, I didn't want to. So I wanted to find a stable company and just work my way up. And after culinary school, I worked at, the Hilton branch of hotels 'cause, I figured the hotel industry would probably be a good route for me. And then, I stayed at the Hilton for about 3 years. And then, to be completely honest, I was about to be fired from there. But, luckily, I found my current job where I'm at now. Um, uh, I'm gonna be real with you listeners out there. I don't have a specialty type of cuisine. I've always questioned what it would be. Um, when I left culinary school, I wanted to do sushi, but no one was gonna hire me because no one wanted to train me. I know because it costs money and whatnot to train. So I couldn't find anyone to train me in that aspect. I guess if I still wouldn't really know what that would be. I do have interest in various types of cuisine. I do like I like Filipino cuisine. I like Asian cuisine. I like French cuisine. Um, but I can't really figure out what my niche would be. Fast forward, this was in 2007, and I've been in the industry ever since. I've had leadership opportunities, which I embraced and learned as much as I could. And I did have an opportunity to be a sous chef, but I turned that down. Um, but this is for personal reasons. It's just something I wasn't really too sure I wanted to pursue anymore. Uh, I'm still in the industry. I'm thankful for the experience I've gained, the knowledge I've gained, the relationships I've built, and as far as I know, I'm probably still going to be in it.
So so when you first stepped into a professional kitchen, what did you expect and what shocked you the most?
Um, what shocked me the most was I didn't have to go to culinary school. But that was told to me at the beginning of my education. My basic skills chef, she kind of sat us down and she said, "Wow, you guys paid to learn how to cook." And she kind of glanced at all of us and she said, "Technically, you don't have to. Culinary school did not exist." And when I started, if you guys want to work in the kitchen, you just work in the kitchen, and you built your skill level as you progress by your experience. That shocked me the most. It looks good on paper. I'm not saying culinary school should not be, a thing. For those listeners out there, I highly encourage it. You'll learn a lot of basic skills, fundamentals, and proper communication in the kitchen. It'll give you a good foundation if you want to once you leave school and join the professional world. Um, what shocked that was the first shocker. The second shocker was you're gonna work every major weekend and holiday if you would like to have a family. I'm not saying it's not possible. It is possible, but you do have to understand that you're gonna probably miss out on a lot of life events and whatever time you have left at the end of your shift for the holidays is all you're gonna get. Um, the what shocked me the most was one New Year's Eve. We were done with service by like 10 o'clock, and I see the whole kitchen scrounging around, running around. I was like, "Dude, what's going on?" And then I overhear my chef say, "Come on, man, I only got like an hour left with my family." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's right." So it's a passion. If it's something you know that you want to pursue, it's something I wanted to do 100%. But yeah, when that really hit me, I'm like, yeah, if I'm gonna move forward in my career, it's something I'm gonna miss. Even like when I was having these conversations with my leaders, I say if I were to move forward and do what you do, he said, well, you have to understand, you're gonna miss out on a lot. But that's something that you have to come to terms with and accept. Will help you along the way. But
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that because there were a ton of things that I did miss.
yeah,
Um, very important dates that you can't really go back in time for, obviously, right? Where you can be like, yeah, yeah, I'll be at this birthday party, and so forth. And one thing that my cousin has always said is like, don't ever ask me what time I'll be off because if I tell you what time, I'm gonna probably be off 3, 4 hours after,
yeah, yeah,
Mm. And that's what sucks too because it's just like you want to be there for the family, but it's kind of hard because you still have to run the line or do inventory or any of that stuff, and it gets sometimes as chefs we get very immersed in our work and we forget about what's going on outside where and we're so focused on like how can we make said item better and what can we do to improve the flow of the restaurant that way it's more streamlined and so forth, right? So do you Do you think people truly understand what goes on to into their plate when they dine out?
no, I don't think they really understand like what it took to make that steak. The time it took, the preparation. What they see is, I want this and I want it now. That to me that's what guests really see. And then when they find out like, oh, it's not how I wanted it, it's like, well, you know how long it took to make that? You're gonna have to wait twice as long now because I'm gonna be backed up now. So I don't think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they appreciate it, but they, like you said, they don't understand like the craft in itself, the passion behind what it takes. To them, it's just like, hey, cool, something from my Instagram, something from my social, and they could talk about it and whatnot, but to fully understand what it takes to make something, you for example, a sauce, you don't know, the saucier came in like at 12 o'clock just to make that, and it's not going to be served until like 5 o'clock. This took like 5 hours of preparation, tasting, and adjusting, and the guests don't see that. They just, I'm thankful they're there, because without the guests, there'd be no business. But still, like they don't really understand what it is.
So, if someone who's never worked in the kitchen asked you to describe the feeling of service in one word, what would that be and why?
I don't want to say anything negative. No, but no, it's I would have to say adaptability. Because you have a mental mise en place, right? You have a mental plan of what service will be like, but it could flip on a dime. You have not enough cooks or a product. You have to have that mindset where it's not gonna probably go 100% the way you think it would. You have to be able to adapt and think on the fly, for lack of a better term. You have to be able to adjust and okay, this is what we got. We're gonna make it work. If we're out of something, we have to communication is also key. You have to let the front of house and your team know like, hey, we're out of this, but we're gonna make this instead. We have to make it work. So yeah, I'd say adaptability and another word, communication, because it's communication's key. for both service, communication, and preparation is key for me. That is in terms of in working in the kitchen.
Yeah, no, it's kinda hard to sum up everything all in one word because, I mean, there's so many factors going on at the same time, right? Um, Adaptability is probably I think is probably the best one I would probably personally would have said. I think that, someone burns themselves and they're off the line, you have to
Yeah,
adapt to that,
it's like
right?
all right.
Someone, runs out of fish, you have to make sure that, "Oh, how do we prep this fish? Where do we go from here?" Or whatever, but, I mean, it's definitely tough, man, because at the end of the day, if you're not running with the flow of service in a proper way, everything's gonna fall apart,
Yeah,
everything's gonna fall
can eat
behind
you,
and so forth,
can
so
eat you alive.
yeah, seriously.
Yeah,
But has there been a single moment in your career that made you question if this industry was really for you?
yeah, there was. When it was actually around the time when I shared the story about New Year's Eve. I was well into my career already. It's been over 10 years already in the industry, and I wasn't at that level of where I wanted to be at in my career, but I was probably a few steps closer to it than what I was when I first started. But that's when I started questioning myself. Like, is this really something I want? It was probably the best time to do it too. I'm not gonna lie. It was probably the best opportunity or time to really take that step and take on the next role. But something was I couldn't explain it. I just didn't know what it was. Just looking at I have a lot of respect for chefs, for cooks, the sacrifices they make. But to see all of us, myself included, running around. But I didn't have a family at the time. I didn't have a relationship. I was single. It was the perfect time. But I didn't know if I wanted to waste my leader's time. If I wasn't sure, 100% sure. I didn't want to go through the training or steps process if I wasn't mentally 100% there. If it was something that was still on my back burner, that's why I was honest with my leaders. But yeah, that was the time when I started questioning, like, is this really for me? It took me like 15 years 10 years to question it, because throughout that time I was set, yeah, this is what I want to do. It's going to make it happen. But I think since I was a little older at the time, I was about to leave my 20s. I was like, I don't know, it was scary, but it's just that was at that time, and I was like, I don't know if I should be doing this, because I knew someday I wanted to have, outside of my professional career, I wanted, a personal life, I wanted, kids, wife. But that's when I realized, like, I don't know if this is for me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think, at one point or another, we have that question for ourselves at time maybe once in our career.
Mhm.
Um, is starting off as a for me personally, starting off as a dishwasher and then working my way up, it gets to a point where it's just like, this is we had this conversation before,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Is this as far as I go?
yeah, yeah,
Where do we go from here?
yeah,
And so making those changes is what you need in order to re-spark
yeah, yeah,
drive, you know?
exactly.
Um, and so that's the way I personally took it.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, no, I completely see where you're coming from with that. Um, so after your 10 years, 10 plus years of doing this, like what's the lesson the kitchen has taught you about life outside of the kitchen?
Mm, Time is the only constant in this world, as much as I do enjoy doing what I'm doing. Life will continue to move on outside. It's as much as I want to be there for certain events, like we spoke about earlier. Like, I'm gonna miss it, you know? And that's something that's one of the major lessons that taught me, well, that I learned, you know, being in the industry, you know, and you could either pout about it or you could just accept it and just gotta keep moving forward, you know? I'm not saying it's not a bad thing, you know, because you know, you are where you are in your life because you put yourself there. It's a little, you know, quote that I learned that stuck with me. But you know, whatever I miss outside, you know, that goes on outside the kitchen, you know, I tend not to dwell on it. I just, you know, I talk to, you know, my family that was there and, you know, I just tell them, I'll see you guys next time. I was like, well, yeah, I think
No, that's definitely powerful, man. Time, and
time is, you know, because it's true, you know. And my brother shared their story with me, you know, he was at, you know, and just get a little, you know, just a little personal. My brother and my dad, they were hanging out together, and my dad was kinda quiet. And my brother's like, you okay, pa?" You know, you're not really saying anything. He's like, "I'm just getting old, son." And then, "Okay." Then they spoke about, you know, a trip that my brother wanted to take, and he's, no, we couldn't make it happen this year." My dad pretty much said, "Well, son, whatever you wanna do in this life, you know, you make sure you make it happen," you know, and then that kind of affected, like, you know, my, my brothers and I, like, holy snap, you know, he's right, you know, time is gonna keep moving, you know, and whatever you want, you know, just gotta make sure you don't wanna have any regrets, you know, just if you want something, you go get it, you know?
yeah, yeah, damn, yeah, that's powerful, bro. That's
Um,
tough. The Yeah, I've had those conversations with my dad, and he's my dad's like, how do you call it? Like very tough. He
yeah,
always giving me tough love and stuff like that. But when you have those conversations, those types of conversations, they stick with you,
yeah,
you know?
100%.
And because number one, like I didn't fully expect to hear something like that, and then when he says it, it's like my dad's quiet, but when he says something, it's wise.
Yeah,
It's you
yeah,
listen, you
exactly.
know? Yeah. Yeah.
Eye-opening.
And so it's like you gain the perspective of what the wiser person is letting and that, hey, obviously time is finite, but we don't really realize it because, we're, in
Yeah,
our 20s or 30s or
right.
40s and we still have, what 60, 20 or 80 years or whatever we have, and we start to think about it. And there was this conversation that Jordan Peterson had talked about that really stuck with me because it's like ever since I moved out, I haven't really I've seen my parents, but not to a point where, obviously when I was living there, you see them every day,
Yeah,
right? And he says that you can if your parents are, let's say, 60 years old and they live maybe till they hit 80, that's 20 more years that they have left, right? But I want you to look at it this way. There's 20 more Christmases left. You know? There's, 20 more Thanksgivings, there's 20 more that's all you get,
yeah,
you know? And it puts into perspective of, like, how fragile life is and how, like, finite we have with or finite in time we have in terms of being able to be there with our loved ones and to make those moments count.
yeah,
And and it sucks because sometimes, like, this industry doesn't allow us to be in that role where it's like, for instance, for me, right, I used to work 6 days a week or whatever it is, and Sundays were the worst because I would work from 6 a.m. all the way till, like, 11 p.m.
totally.
That's literally an entire day, because I gotta work brunch and prepare for brunch, and then I also have to finish making sure that service is completed, and then on top of that, I still gotta write, not
Yeah,
finish my schedule, but, like, finish off the order for the day because I'm trying to minimize the amount of inventory. You just you just have to make sure that things are getting done, but you can't complain about it because it's a job that you have to get done.
Yeah.
You like you mentioned,
Mhm.
you put yourself in that position,
Yeah.
right? And so when it comes down to it, it's like, can you really complain about where you put yourself through?
Yeah.
And you can't. You just
Yeah.
gotta keep
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, that was powerful. Like, you know.
Glad you liked it.
So I want to get into culinary school because you
Uh-huh.
mentioned a little bit about that, as well as the real world, right?
Mhm.
So if culinary schools had to be brutally honest with their brochures,
Mhm.
what warning label do you think they would put on their front?
Mm, good question. Uh, hmm, what warning label? Uh, huh. I'm trying to find the right words to answer this. Uh, take at your own risk.
Yeah,
Because, it is I just say that because, find a form of education is expensive, right? It doesn't matter, culinary, medical, doesn't matter. It's always gonna be expensive, and if students could have an opportunity to get an education without formally getting an education, I don't know if that makes sense. I'm just referring it because in our industry, it's not like, medical school where, you can just get a job as a medical assistant and then, hey, I'm gonna learn how to do surgery. It's different in culinary school. If you want to work in the kitchen, just I suggest, staging or like say, hey, I'm interested in this industry. Can I just see what it's like and ask, could you work or oversee what service is like, and then go from there, but culinary school just teaches, I'm not saying it's bad, saying it's bad, you learn a lot of good fundamentals in history, in terms of the culinary world. You learn a lot about great chefs and, skills, and, you could leave there, you could leave there, right? And a chef will hand you a recipe and you'll understand it. You won't be like, what is this foreign language? You know what I mean? But yeah, I will I will say I will stand by with what I say, take at your own risk because you can, just there are ways to learn, there are ways to develop skills. There you could find a restaurant or a specific cuisine you want to learn about and be honest, like, hey, I want to learn this, and then see if the chef or the sous chef is willing to take you on and you work your way up like you did. You could be a dishwasher, and then you could fully immerse yourself in the industry without having to pay. I paid, if I'm gonna be totally honest with you, at the time, I paid for my associates was $43,000, and then for my additional bachelor's was an extra 30. So yeah, I paid about $70,000 for my education. It was great. It was great. I'm not saying it's bad. It was just great opportunity, a lot of skills learned. But if you could save that money, you know, and just work in a kitchen, yeah, go with that route. Don't try not do your research first, before
sure.
you decide to go to culinary school.
I like how you laugh right after answering that.
It blows my mind. How much should I spend? I'm all talking to my loan advisor. Wait. About when the payments due, it's like, are you sure it costs this much money? But hey, what I said earlier, you are where you are because you put yourself there. So
So, what what do you think is more valuable, technique you learn in school or the toughness you build on the line?
toughness you build on the line. You know that you really gotta learn. Because in culinary school, it's like you mess up, it's okay, just grab another onion, dice that up, or you burn that, it's okay. It's when you're on the line, it's like, would you mess up? No, that costs money to redo it. That backs up service. And it disrupts the flow of the kitchen. So I'd say, yeah, the the experience gained on working on the line is more a little more just a little more valuable than culinary school, because you make mistakes at school. You're supposed to. That's how you learn. In life, that is how you learn, but it's just more. I think it's a little more meaningful if you're actually in the industry already because you understand the value of the time it takes to make it. The whatever it is you're cooking, and the not to get into financials perspective, how much it costs. It's like, "You burned that filet, you know how much that thing cost?" Like, what?" Yeah, I was like, "Well, we better pray someone orders a well done, okay?" So I can make something off that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, man. Like, when it comes down to it, it's a more it costs more to mess up at a restaurant than it does at culinary
Yeah,
school. Um,
yeah,
you know, I've never been to culinary school, but, the way you're describing it to me, it's just
yeah,
like,
it's like,
yeah, like, grab another onion, it's cool, you know?
that's fine,
They're expecting the waste.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
So, but yeah, I remember, um I remember working with Wagyu for the first time, and man, I was so nervous because you understand, like,
It's
what
valuable,
what what
this is.
right, what it is, how much it costs, because the chef is telling you, "Hey, this thing was, I think it was like $200 per ounce at the time," right? Just like, "What, dude?" It's like, "You're crazy, bro, like, to even order that,"
Yeah,
but, I mean, it is what it is, people want it too.
yeah.
So, do you think passion can survive without debt, or does debt force cooks to quit too soon?
I believe passion does. Yes, debt is scary to acquire, but I've always believed in if you're passionate about something, it'll find a way to reward you at the end. If that makes sense. I've seen it in you, and I've seen it in other people. When I see them being discouraged, when I see them, with the doubt in their eyes, the doubt, the fear in their eyes, like, man, I love this, but it's hurting me financially. But I believe that your passions will find a way to things will come full circle if that makes sense. Because I've seen artists who were like, hey, why don't you get a job at a bank? You could earn a 9 to 5. Just no, I don't want that. I don't want to get comfortable. I don't want a plan B because it distracts from plan A. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make it happen. And then fast forward, like 3, 5 years later, and they prove people wrong. Like I made it. I found a way to make it happen. Because they didn't want. I believe passion. Could really pull you through. If you believe in it. What I mean. So yeah, I believe passion will outweigh you know placency and security of having that regular 9 to 5. What
Nice.
I mean.
Well, let's get into the order cook life,
Mhm.
because we've all been there,
Yeah. Yeah.
and a lot of my listeners are in that position now, and who are looking to also grow. Um, but I wanted to ask you, what's the most invisible part of the order cook's job that does let me rephrase that. What's the most invisible part of the order cook's job that deserves the most respect?
Mm. Most invisible part. I want to make sure I understand the question.
So
Uh,
what's the part that people usually don't see in an order cook's position that deserves more respect?
that is a very good question. I think I want to make sure I say this correctly. Um, I want to say preparation and the whole mindset. Because when leaders and outside people see the title order cook, like, oh, they just take whatever and they listen to whatever and they do whatever is asked of them. But the mindset was is key. You know, you can't let the criticism, you can't let the comments, get to you. You mess up a dish, you learn from it and you move on. Having the stronger mindset of being an order cook. You have to understand. Okay, in order for me to move on in my career, I need to get this done. But not only this station, I gotta get several other stations down. In order for me to grow and build upon my skill set. So that just yeah, having a stronger mindset is something that no one sees. They just see a bunch of you know employees cracking jokes at each other, on the line. You know how it is. That's all they see, but they don't see like the what they have to go through mentally. Do I have enough prep? Is my station clean? Do I have enough? Hands, to make the service. They don't see that. All they see is a bunch of silly stuff going on. But that is the one invisible aspect that no one sees. But that refers to the individual in the individual if they didn't mentally prepare themselves for it. I hope that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. The mindset is definitely a huge part of it because you the way I look at it is repetitiveness, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And you have to be used to and be comfortable knowing that you're gonna do the same thing tomorrow,
yeah,
and the next day, and then the next day until you get that opportunity, right?
yeah, yeah,
And so when you have that potential opportunity, come to you
yeah,
and you wanna take it, then you have to be in the mindset, like, hey, like,
yeah,
mindset where you are just like, "Well, I'm ready for this position.
yeah,
What do I need to do in order for me to improve?" And
yeah,
that's what we're
exactly.
also looking at too, right?
Yeah,
And it's not just the repetitiveness, but it's also preparing yourself for the future,
yeah,
and it all starts up here.
yeah.
Um, so what's the single most unfair assumption people make about line cooks?
They're just cooks. You know, it's unfair that they you know people, sometimes guests, sometimes fellow employees, they just see it as you're just a line cook. You do as you're told. They don't. I think it's unfair. They don't think, hey, can my cooks, creatively make a menu? What can they offer me or this location something else? Something that'll help the business grow. Or make the functionality of the kitchen grow. They just see it as, hey, yeah, you do what you're told. Hey, prep this, cook that, serve it. What I mean? you know, um, I think it's so unfair that they don't really take into consideration if their employees or fellow cooks could offer more, because they're in there, they choose to work there, and if they want to grow as an individual, they should be given the same opportunity to share a little bit of what they know, or help improve, the location or the restaurant in general. Could probably help the flow of service, could probably help, with service, So yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, man, um, when I worked with you, you had a lot of leadership experience, whether you were in the role or not.
Mhm.
And I think that was probably one of the biggest factors into where I kind of like started listening to you more because versus the other leaders, maybe other than one other person. I think you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah,
But you both were, like, legit. You guys were you always had something right to say, you know? Um, at that very moment, and it was like, "Whoa," like, "What lesson can I get from this?" And so, for me, when I was an order cook, I was just like, where I would ask you for advice, or I would ask you for some constructive feedback, and, you would give it to me, and I would, take it to heart and stuff like that, and sometimes I would act on it, and other times I would forget to act on it, and other times I would just, "You know what? I don't wanna hear it right now," like,
yeah,
type of thing.
yeah, yeah,
And, so I think what you're saying right now is extremely important because order cooks aren't just cooks, they're people.
yeah, yeah,
You know? And some people just wanna stay where they're at, and that's okay, and there's another person we both know who is okay with where they're at too, and
yeah,
at the end of the day, I just wanted to make sure that, like, people understand that you played a huge role, whether you were an order cook or not, like, you played a huge role in shaping who I was or who I am now as a chef, and you decide deciding to not take on that role as chef. I mean, it speaks volumes to not just your character, but also where your values are set,
mm,
you know? And it's not every day where someone gets the opportunity to accept it and they refuse it or respectfully refuse it, right? And but still want to act as a mentor, as a leader, to others who want to look for that position. And regardless whether the title is for you,
mm,
like, I see you as a chef because,
nice.
again, it's not just the fact that it's not just that you're an order cook. You lead like a chef.
Mm,
You move like a chef. You act like a chef. Title or not title, whatever the role is, that was where you stood, and I appreciated that a lot. Um, and so I kinda wanna ask you this, but, have you ever seen someone break down on the line, and what did it teach you about the mental side of this work?
mm. Yeah, I've seen plenty of people, not plenty, but, a good amount of people break down, myself included. Um, when how I handled the situation, if this will help you, if this will answer the question. I let them cool off. I'm not gonna hound them like, "Hey, what are you doing? Get back on the line." Because I understand. It takes a lot. Mentally. You have one item cooked three different ways. So it's like, you're gonna have to approach the situation and be like, just calm down. It's gonna be all right. We've all been there. But when you're ready, try not to take as much time you need. I need you here. I need you focused. And me shoving you back in this rack in the heat of it is not going to get any better. I'd rather have you take the time, and then when you're ready, it's gonna don't worry about service right now. We're already off of it. This is me. Talk to them. Right? We're already off of it. We're behind. It is what it is. We have to just communicate with the front of the house. Like, hey, tickets are gonna be a little. We apologize for the wait, but uh, if I need service flow, I need my team, you know, 100% there. I don't want them to potentially hurt themselves or other people around them. I don't want a knife flying flying across the line. I don't want no plates, being thrown on the ground. I'd rather have you here, you know, instead of taking out the aggression and frustration on those around you, because I don't. That's a situation I do not want to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And again, dude, like, I've experienced that with you.
yeah, you have.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, those. Yeah, those stories still echo within the walls of where we worked.
It's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's, it happens, right? Like,
yeah, it
where we
happens.
were it's the heat of the moment, it's summer,
Yeah,
and the line never stops.
the ticket the screen keep the screen keeps
It
beeping.
just builds, it
Yeah,
continues to grow, and
building, yeah,
you're the only one working that one station
yeah,
and having to make 20 burgers at once or whatever
yeah,
it is,
yeah,
right? That line was very different,
yeah,
compared to the other lines, and I'm not gonna like, I learned a lot
yeah,
working
yeah.
of what not to do. You
But
know?
what did help me with that, one of our leaders at the time, he kind of he could tell he saw the frustration on my face, and he kind of like, hey, look, we're gonna start here in this ticket, this one, and then we're gonna work our way down. Don't worry about these back here. I know you see food ready for these, but no, we're gonna start here and just move on from there. Okay, I need you here. Okay, and oh, okay, yeah, that's what pretty much calmed me down from moving forward. That one experience.
I remember those conversations.
Yeah,
I remember listening in on that,
yeah,
and when I start to drown on the expo line,
uh-huh.
that's exactly what I
Yeah,
think of,
right? It's
is
like
that conversation. Start right over here, and then start working your way down, you know?
yeah,
And once you start working all the way down, "Okay, cool. Now can I hit these tickets? Okay,
yeah,
cool. Let's start pushing this
yes.
food out," you know? And, service isn't gonna always run perfectly, you
Oh,
know? And there was a guest I had on before, um, he says, "You can either be the chaos or control the chaos,"
wow, that's deep.
right?
Dude,
And this is from Chef Keith, so if you haven't seen that, episode 21.
okay,
Um,
let's see it.
Chef Keith mentioned that you can either be the chaos or control the chaos, you know? And 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 at the end of the day, it's like you have to kinda, like, choose where you're gonna be at, but there's only one right answer in my opinion, right? You can
Yeah,
control it, and once you start controlling it, like, you're able to navigate your way out of the woodwork essentially, right? And so, it's all good though at the end of the day,
yeah,
because eventually service is gonna end,
yeah.
right?
So
It's not forever.
last tickets in sight, It's like
Yeah, yeah, exactly, and when you see
right
that
there.
one ticket, you're good, and
Yeah.
then 9:59 hits, and you get that last ticket before 10 o'clock. No, I'm just kidding.
It's like, "Who sat this table?"
Yeah, no, but, yeah, dude, like, that again, like, those are the lessons that listening in on what you guys had these types of conversations or just, like, working with set amount of people and just learning from there, like, it really gave me a lot of perspective on the career path that I decided to move into, you know? And so and like I mentioned too, bro, like, you might not be the chef in terms of the title, but I see you as a chef, and I think that's something that I need to tell you because it's like, you excuse me, you helped me tremendously in my career, directly and indirectly, you know? And so but I was always watching, I was always listening to what you guys had to say. It's not that I was trying to impede on what you guys were trying to do or anything like that. It was more so of, like, wanting to learn from you, you know? And, and you guys were the only ones I had to learn from. It
Yeah,
wasn't from anyone else, as we both
yeah,
know. And at the end of the day, it's like we have to I have to learn wherever I can get knowledge from,
yeah,
especially if when I decided that this is the career path I was gonna take and I was gonna go all the way
yeah.
and give it 100%, you know? And so, but yeah, bro, like, at the end of the day, man, thank you for what you've done in my career, you know?
I'm
Um,
glad, I helped you, and in, whatever way I could. But I do remember you specifically asking, like, should I take this? I'm probably gonna take this opportunity, and I can remember, yeah, dude, do it. Like that's the only way you're gonna move forward because we both know where we're at. It's a little different to get an opportunity. So it's like, yeah, I'm glad I strongly encouraged you to, like, yeah, dude, don't be comfortable. I think it's don't be comfortable like me right now. No, just get out, bro. You really gotta make it happen. Yeah,
It's scary, dude.
it is.
It's
Yeah,
scary. You
yeah.
know, once you
That's why
once
I
you
applaud you. For taking that step, dude. Really. Yeah. Well, I speak highly of you whenever we talk about former employees. Like, oh man, like you guys gotta understand. What we have here is, it's not. I'm not gonna say easy, but it's comfortable. And for those who really took that step and got uncomfortable, to learn a new skill set, I applaud them. That's why Ish, he did it. He pretty much said, F this, dude. You guys may think I don't have it, but I know I do. And you made it happen.
yeah. You know, it's so cliche, but it's so true. Pressure creates diamonds, right?
Yeah.
And so when you have nothing to fall back on and the only way you can go is up, like
Yeah.
you can't, you know, there's no room for failure, right? And if you have a plan B, there's no
Yeah.
they like you're just comfortable.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, well, if I fail, I can go back over here.
Yeah.
There was none of that for me.
Yeah, there wasn't. When I think about it now, like, yeah, he was like, "Well, he's gonna make it because he's this is it." He left complacency, and you're like, dude, I'm gonna do it. That's why, dude, I highly applaud you for for making it. And I think it's cool how you're still out there, willing to learn, willing to create and develop your craft, as you say in all your posts. Because it's true. Just to share a quick story. Before I took that, when the opportunity was presented to me, my leader did ask me that question, like, when I leave here, am I still learning outside this place? Am I reading food articles? Am I reading blogs? Am I knowing what the current food trend is? I said, no, chef. And he kind of looked at me. I was like, well, that's where you have to start. You know, you're in any industry, in any field, you need to have that desire to keep learning. This is just a job for you, then fortunately, it may not open a lot of doors. You need to have that drive. You need to have that thirst for for knowledge, for growth. And I was like, dang, chef is right. Because he did ask me, and I was like, no. After this 10-hour shift, no, I want to watch, freaking Netflix, or I don't know,
Yeah.
play Batman or something. Who knows? Whatever I was playing at the time.
7 nights.
Yes. Dude.
So, I remember having that conversation with a specific chef as well,
Uh-huh.
and, uh, and again, I took that to heart.
Yeah,
Freaking I might not have had time to read a book or even, afford a cookbook.
yeah,
I remember one of the leads um, gave me advice on, like, oh, which book to start off with, and it was a textbook and a workbook, and I was like, "Okay, that's a perfect way to start, right? What better way to start learning from what a culinary school is gonna teach you than, buying going on Amazon and buying a used book."
yeah. I think you showed me that book.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, that was my textbook. The same book, man.
So, and that's the thing, like, bro, like, when at first I was like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna go watch some YouTube videos and learn from the best," right? Like, "Okay, well, Gordon Ramsay is doing this, and he's cutting onions this way and blah, blah." Then I work at the rehab, and he's telling me, "No, you're gonna cut onions this way because it's faster." Well, yes, it looks nice doing it that way, we're cooking for recovering addicts, so let's just move forward, you know? Okay, cool. So throwing technique out of the door sometimes is okay because we're not gonna use the onion.
Yeah,
Maybe we're just using it for the broth or whatever it is, right?
yeah,
And then from that point on, I was like, "Okay, cool." Like, I learned whatever I could from Gordon Ramsay's cooking, tutorials. Now what's next? Okay, then it was the book.
yeah,
And then I started going into that, and then after that, I was like, "Okay, well, what next?" Okay, now I'm going to articles, and now I have time to do that. And if I didn't have time to read the articles, it was simple. You just click on it, and say translate. You press play, and it will read to you. Just
nice.
listen, right? There's ways around it, you know? And so at the end of the day, it's just like, okay, cool. Like I might not have the money to afford these ingredients because it's expensive to practice at home,
Right.
right? Because you're not only and that's why I don't really do a lot of cooking videos because it's
Yeah,
like
I get
it's
it.
kind of hard to afford these ingredients, and I see these guys on Instagram or TikTok, and they're already established, TikTokers and Instagrammers, and they receive a paycheck doing
Yeah,
this.
yeah, that's
I
why they're
don't.
bored making, better and more stuff.
Yeah, so it's like, okay,
Yeah,
well, today I'm gonna make a rack of lamb with A5 Wagyu. Like, what? Like,
you know,
where'd you get that?
fuck, like, we got that
Just
much
threw the
free stuff.
ingredients out there. But it's things like that, where it's like, dang, I wish I had the opportunity to get those types of ingredient or afford them at much less, right?
Yeah,
We all know ingredients are expensive, it's still expensive.
yeah, it is.
And, to be able to like, okay, well, how much is ribeye right now? Freaking 13, $14 a pound? Ugh, okay, well, I can't do that. Now I guess I'm gonna go with tilapia again. But, is practicing, bro, like, that's
Yeah,
extremely important is practicing, learning how to do your chiffonades and all that fun stuff, or even learning how to make a bouquet garnier or how to, tie, what's it called? Whatever,
yeah.
doesn't it's not something like that, just doing all that stuff. But, so with all that being said, like, what has kept you here for over a decade and when so many others have burnt out?
Mm. I shouldn't try leaving, I did went back to school, uh, earned a bachelor's degree in business administration with an emphasis on, human resources. Couldn't find a job in that because, despite the education, experience kinda um, outweighs education. So what kept me here, despite the long hours, despite, you know, um, the time I miss sometimes with my family and whatnot, what kept me here was just knowing the fact that I still have fun, doing it, I'm still learning, uh, I still enjoy it. It's been good to me, the industry in itself, despite, every industry has ups and downs, but despite all that, I choose to just look at the experience I've gained, and I am I can influence others to still turn to me, like, because I am one of the oldest ones in the kitchen now. They turn to me with, like it reminds me of you, and, like, how do I move forward, and I enjoy trying to mentor them and, try to guide them, in certain directions that they ask for it. And it feels good knowing that, as expensive culinary school was, I'm glad that, the skills learned there, are still being applied today in my current profession. Don't ask me about the difference between a small dice and a medium dice measurement, because I do not know that anymore. Because recently, I had a fellow employee who asked me, "Hey, what's the difference between a Batanon and a small dice?" And I was like, "A what and a what?" you know? And then he was like, "Did you go to culinary school?" It's like, "Oh, I did, like, over 10 years ago." And he was like, "Oh, well, he kinda told me the dimensions and the measurements," and I was like, that is it was interesting to hear. I'm not gonna talk crap about it. It was interesting to hear, to know that it stuck with him, but in my mind, I was like, I'm guilty of not really knowing that. If so, like, if a chef would say, you know, mince this or dice this. Okay, cool. I'll have a generalization knowledge of that, but to specific, you know, you know, cuts like that, you know, I am guilty of not remembering it. But you know, just overall fundamentals in kitchen communication, you know, the experience gained, it's kept me there. You know, and and it's still despite the sometimes the busy rushes and the time when, you know, like you said, that last ticket comes in like 2 minutes before closing. It's like, have you seen the movie Waiting? It's a perfect example. And if you watch that movie, well, the movie Waiting, you know, it's funny, but it's, yeah, just that scene in the movie where like you see all the cooks like wiping down their station, just looking at the seconds, and then they think they're gonna leave, but the last ticket comes in. Oh, what the? You know, yeah, it's kept me there, and the industry has been good to me. I may not be a chef, I may not be where I thought it would be, like, you know, when I left culinary school, but the industry has been good to me, and and I respect that. So if I believe if I keep showing up and doing what I'm supposed to, it'll still be good to me in return.
Yeah, no, that's the I guess that's the cool thing about working, there because there were so many people who were very passionate about cooking,
Mhm.
and the way I've always described it was, like, if it wasn't for that, like, I honestly wouldn't know where I would have gone in terms of my career because I had stopped applying for police departments at the time, and so I said, "Huh?"
I remember you applying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and so it to me, it was like, "Okay, well, these guys love it," and I wanted to know what's up with why is it that people enjoy doing this if we're just working in a QSR, you
Yeah.
know? And then when I went over to a different restaurant
Uh-huh.
and I start to see the preparation and I'm like, "Oh, crap, like, okay, this is more than just."
Yeah, you know, and, taking this and just putting in this
Yep.
container.
But
You
it's
know, it's
you just get everything down to a T, right?
yeah,
Open the
yeah.
door.
Yeah, did
You know?
you?
But, there's more to it than working in a QSR, like, you
Yeah.
will go to a different restaurant, and you're just like, "Whoa,"
Wow, I didn't
like, you
think
guys are actually you have a saucier there, you have a grill cook there, you have a
that's
pastry cook
good.
there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and you see all that, and you're just like, "Oh, there's more to it than just, you know,
you know,
flipping burgers," and
yeah,
stuff like
yeah, burger flipper.
like burger flipper, right?
Yeah,
That's exactly what I called myself at the time.
yeah.
And I don't know, I just
Don't say that, man. Don't say that. You know, you're more. You're a lot more than that. Okay, man. Don't just call yourself that. Right?
but, I mean, it was so cool because, again, listening to you guys speak about, like, uh, I remember one conversation, it was about, Michelin, and I had a question about it. I was like, "What's Michelin?" And you guys explained it to me, or one of the other leads explained it to me. And he was telling me, "Oh, well, Michelin is one of the biggest, awards you can get in the culinary industry and stuff like that." And I was like, "Huh, okay, well, how do you get one?" And that's where he started explaining it to me and so forth.
I
And
do
so
remember
that's
that conversation.
yeah, yeah. So, it's things like that where it's just like, okay, well, now I can continue to gain more knowledge from you guys in terms of like what the culinary industry gives. It's not just making money. There's different avenues to in this industry. And so, but you mentioned that you went to school, back to school to get your bachelor's in business admin, specifically in HR or human resources, HR. But if you walked away from that kitchen and you ended up working in that position, what part of you would you feel empty, if anything?
Mm. The camaraderie, the knowing that it's not just myself. You know, yeah, there would be an HR team or whatnot, but it's just not. It wouldn't be the same. it's more like in the culinary field, like, it's like, if you go down, the whole ship sinks, It's compared to if I worked at a desk where it's like, "Oh, you messed up that spreadsheet," it's like, "Well, you help me fix it," It's like, it's all like solo based, if lack of a better term, if there's not that camaraderie, that unification of like, "Okay, dude, we working as a unit to accomplish a goal," if working in an office job. I don't know what's like working in an office job. I'm not trying to disrespect it, but I've always seen it as, you're fully in charge of the outcome of of your performance. There wouldn't be, if I'm stuck, if I have to prep X, Y, and Z, and I could only prep X, I could, there are others who could delegate. I could delegate to prepare, Y and Z. I could build that trust. I could build that relationship, knowing that, well, if I go down, technically we all go down. Not to, I'm not trying to say, if we're gonna fail, I'm gonna bring all you guys down with me. No, it's not. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to say it's the overall, you know, um, team you have. You know, because when I see an office job, this is purely just my perspective or my assumption of what's like when working in an office. It's like you sit there and then so you have a list of things to do. It's like, oh man, I gotta do all this before like lunch, and it's
Yeah.
compared to as if we work in a kitchen, it's like, okay guys, we got this, and this. You take care of this, I take care of that, right? We'll be done within like 30 minutes or an hour, and you can move on to the next thing. It'd be a lot different. Yeah.
So throughout your journey as a I'm gonna call you a leader because that's what you are.
Oh, thanks, man.
What do you want people to remember about your journey when you're done cooking?
Oh, yeah. I'll say organization, uh, preparation.
Well, see, that's the thing, man. Um, some people are gonna remember those.
Yeah.
And when before we had this conversation, you mentioned an incident that apparently I de-escalated,
Mm.
and I honestly didn't remember that because I was like, "What? When did I ever say that to you or whatever?" And but you remembered it.
Yeah.
But that's the thing too, though. I don't remember. Yes, I granted, I do remember some of the times where you were um
Out of line. It's just.
lying. I wouldn't say that. I would say tough,
Mm,
right? And it was warranted.
mm,
Maybe because it was the way I was raised. My dad was tough, and when you came tough on me, like I took it, you know? And at the same time too, I knew when not to take it, right? There had to be a clear boundary, but at the same time, I remember mostly positive things about you. And that's where you know, when that's the legacy you left on me. It wasn't the negative things, it wasn't when you were mad or anything like that. To me, it was like, okay, well, he was very patient with me. He taught me a lot. He guided me on where I needed to go in terms of where I needed to go in my culinary career. And so that's what I remember. That's my viewpoint of your legacy. Because yeah, people are gonna talk crap about me. I know they still talk about me. You just told me about it, right? They still
the
I
one
was
that's
a kid,
backing
I
you
messed up.
right, I was backing you up every time. It's like, "No, don't hey, hey, hey. He may have done this, but dude, you see where he's at now? No, yeah, right."
So that's exactly the thing too, though. Like, those negative it's unfortunate because sometimes negativity lasts longer than
Yeah.
the positive things, and while yes, you might have been tough with me at times, it hurt more that I disappointed you
Mm,
than other times where you were angry or whatever, you know? Because at the end of the day, it's like, man, like, I wanna make sure that I'm doing things the right way because you were the person who I respected the most, in terms of the entirety of the kitchen. And so when it came down to it, I wanted to make sure that I looked up to you. That's the bottom line, you know? And so and so, like, that the last person I wanted to disappoint wasn't the chefs, it wasn't the leads, it wasn't the other kitchen members, it was you know, because at the end of the day, I again, like, I respected you so much and I held you to the highest, uh, standards, over everybody. And, it may have sometimes come across a little strong, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well, I reflected on that. Whether you told me or not, I reflected on it. And I said to myself, was I too slow on the line? Did I mess up here? And when I didn't know where I might have messed up or anything like that, I still went up to you and I asked you. And that's when you gave it to me for real, like real, you know, and that's where again, like I appreciated your honesty. I appreciated that you were never around the bush about, you know, certain things. And so again, like that's my legacy. That's what I think of you when we talk about your legacy. You know, and it sucks that you think it that way because it's like, you know, ah man, maybe because of this and this and that. But you're around it, bro. Like you listen to it,
mm,
but you don't but I want you to look at it the other way where it's like the positive aspect of where your career's at, you know, what you've done for a lot of people,
mm,
you know. Your mentorship was massive. It was huge, bro. It was like it was legit, you know, and the mentorship that you give, a lot of mentors charge,
oh,
you know,
when that
and
each only $20. It's like I'm just like I
and
just like
interest.
just like how long have I known you? It's like
Hey, man, how long when was the last time we worked together?
I'd
Jesus.
say 2015.
Something like no,
Yeah,
it was before that.
yeah, I think 2014,
No,
13,
it was 2012.
2012. Yeah, dude, it's been a while. But you know what? As you shared that story, it did I did recall service one night, and you took a break and came back. You told exactly everything you just told me right now, how much you respected me and you didn't want to let me down. I kinda took that as a shock, like, "Oh, what are you talking about? The service is over, you know, it's fine." You know, but I do remember you specifically saying that, like, you know, amongst the leaders. I'm not trying to put myself on pedestal. I'm just clearly just reflecting,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, on it like, "Wow, I do remember that night." And as I went home that night, I was like, "Man, I didn't think, you know, I personally have an impact like that on anybody." 'Cause to me, it was like, you know, we learned from it, we moved on, and, you know, that was that, you know? I didn't think you were, took it like that, and like, wow,
You know,
that's yeah.
when I left,
Uh-huh.
you, throughout my career, I thought about how patient you were and how seriously, bro, like, I mean, sometimes, like, you were very patient,
Mhm,
okay? And when you were frustrated or disappointed or whatever, like, you didn't hide it.
mhm.
And I'm not saying that you threw things on the wall or anything like that. I'm just saying,
Had it
your
happen.
face expression showed it, and we all knew, like, "Ah, man, like,
Mhm,
Paul's mad," you know, like, "Ah, dang, like, I guess I messed up here," or whatever it was, you know? And so, like, I took that on, was, like, when I went to my first executive position, and I
yeah.
was just like, "Oh, man, like, okay, well," thinking to myself, "How would Paul react?" You and it was never negative, bro. It was never negative. It was always like, I would respond in silence.
Uh-huh.
It's not me shutting down, it was just me going onto the line, working helping you out, getting you out of the weeds, and then after that, after, the rush happened, why was your turbot not, you know, prepped out? Why was your halibut not prepped out? Why was the fillet not done? What's going on? You know, that it was again, like, enforcing that it wasn't enforcing, but it was more like asking why,
Yeah.
and then, "Okay, if this happened, how can we fix it? How
Yeah.
can we fix it?
That.
Maybe can we talk a little less?
Yeah.
Or maybe is it too much prep? Can I put this prep on someone else?
Mhm.
Let's come up with a solution with it," right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's pretty much where again, like, I took on what you, um how you acted,
Right.
and then I kinda spun it into a way where I benefited from it in a way where I was like, "Okay, well, how can I, um how can I make this into a lesson?"
Mhm.
You know? So,
Yeah. Well, I'm glad, it's good to know you took, the way I handle things, and you actually listened, because I don't think, there are times when, when you left and I try to say certain things or show certain thing to, "Okay, yeah, cool." And then it's like, "Oh, alright." Keep my mouth shut. Yeah.
so I did have, quick fire questions,
Cool.
simple, one answer or one word answers. You
Mhm.
ready?
Yeah,
Okay. Which station teaches you the most about life?
the grill.
One ingredient you wish never existed.
Foie gras.
Dishwasher or chef? Who's the real backbone of the kitchen?
Oh, that's a good question. Dishwasher.
What's harder? Earning respect in the kitchen or keeping it?
Gotta think about that one. Keeping it.
Awesome. Paul,
Mhm.
I sincerely appreciate you taking the time to sit with me.
So
And
much.
no, seriously, bro,
Yeah,
it means a lot to me that you did this and you took time out of your busy day to sit with me and talk to me for this hour and 20 minutes now.
yeah.
And
No, it's good. We laugh. We shared stories, dude. It was good. Actually feels good knowing that, I didn't think I had that much of an impact on your career. I'm glad you took what I had to say at the time, and you developed it and made it your own, and you're continuing to encourage and develop your cooks and mentor those who seek your guidance. Yeah, good job, man.
awesome.
Really, for real, too. When I talk about you, like, dude, yeah, you may have had other aspirations back in the day, but if you see where he's grown and how he's continuing to grow and develop, you'd be surprised. Don't judge right away. You don't know. Everybody has a story.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
All
Well,
right,
Paul,
Jeff. It's been a pleasure.
thanks.
Yeah, you'll see my comments on your post. It's like- Well, it's been some fun. Really, congratulations, and keep doing what you're doing. And thank you for having me.
Thank you.